Live from the Bob Levy Broadcast Center, overlooking the Toms River. It's time to get up, get out, do something. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Be a part of the show, 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Hey, welcome back. 6:07, Tuesday, July 19th, 72 degrees, got up to 88 today. WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. News Talk Radio, streaming live on the Radio Pop app and WOBMAM.com. 732-505-1160. Join the conversation. We are now joined in studio by Karen Wood, Superintendent of Barnegat Township Schools. Good morning, Karen. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
I am fantastic. I always like to comment that it's so awkward saying good morning to someone who's been sitting in front of you for 20 minutes. So, but, you know, we do what we do for radio. You know what I mean? Nobody knows. So, Karen, why don't you give us a quick overview of the Barnegat Schools, kind of what it's all about for those that may not know, the size of the district, et cetera.
So the Barnegat Township School District is a K-12 school district, actually pre-K through 12th grade. One of the exciting things in Barnegat is that our high school is only 11 years old. And I think a lot of people forget that we are a K-12 school district in Ocean County. We're probably about a mid-sized district. We've got about 3,100, 3,200 students. We have 4 elementary schools, 1 middle school and 1 high school. So our four elementary schools are K-5. Our middle school is 6th through 8. So all 4 elementary schools feed into the 1 middle school, and then those students go to Barnegat High School. One of the great things about our school district is that most kids who start with us in kindergarten finish with us in 12th grade. So it really is kind of a homegrown population of students.
Right. So 3,200 students. So how long have you been in Barnegat at the school system?
I'm beginning my 6th year.
All right. So has that grown over 6 years, or is that like stagnated, or where was it when you started?
Ironically, it's almost exactly the same. We've probably fluctuated by 60 students, maybe 100 students, total overall population. We've had some growth in Barnegat over the past few years, but we've not seen student growth down there.
Do you think that's coming in the not too distant future? Because I think you see a lot of young families, young families that came in, maybe a lot that didn't have kids yet. So those kids maybe now getting into school age. What do you think?
You know what happened maybe about 10 years ago before I was down there in Barnegat, we did start to see some growth in building new homes, lots of residential homes, and there was a huge growth in the school district. It's actually what's put us in a little bit of financial constraints right now, is that a superintendent previous to me bonded some money from the state and then built additions to schools, because when you looked at the census at the time, the projection was for us to see huge growth. Actually, the phrase that was used about 10 years ago in Barnegat was the next Toms River. Right. So the expectation was that there was going to be huge student growth. So additions were put on schools. And then the housing market, the bottom completely fell out maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. And now we've got large schools, beautiful schools, renovated schools that are not at capacity.
Really?
So, so it's a shame. I mean, it would be nice to have some growth. But I'm not really sure what's going to happen.
But the good news is you are poised and ready for that boom if it comes.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So you said pre-K. What is that? What's your pre-K program all about?
So under the law, everybody has to have an integrated pre-K program.
Okay.
So an integrated pre-K program means that you've got to have special education students, students identified as special needs, balanced with their general education peers. So we do have a pre-K program that has both special education and general education students in the same program.
Cool. All right. So 6 years, right? Before that, where were you at?
I was superintendent of schools in West Long Branch and Monmouth County, little tiny K-8 schools.
Okay. And so this was a step up in responsibility, size of the prize, et cetera, right?
And moving closer to home, which I was really excited about.
You're an Ocean County girl?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. I'm from Forked River. I went to Lacey High School.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. So that's good. So before that, what's your background? Where did you start? What did you do before all that? Where was the moment in your life where you were like, oh my God, I want to get into education. I want to get into administration. I want to run lots of schools.
So when I was in high school, I had a guidance counselor who said, what do you want to do when you grow up, right? I mean, it kind of happens and you're like, right. I don't really know. My strength was always in music. I'm a saxophone player. My bachelor's degree is in music education. So I went to Montclair State University, earned my bachelor's there in music ed. When I began teaching, I started talking with and meeting a lot of teachers, and they said, you should really get into administration. I took a few classes. I really, really enjoyed it. And I finished my master's at Jersey City State University. And then I basically went through the ranks. I was a teacher in Lacey between two different schools. And then I became a vice principal in Galloway Township Middle School down in Atlantic County.
Right.
And then I was a principal in Absecon, also in Atlantic County, for about 5 years. And then I went up to West Long Branch. So, and I actually did 1 year of teaching in Bergen County. So I've been in, I think, 4 counties. But it's 22 years. It's, you know what I mean? It's not like I've jumped all over the place.
Right.
But I really loved being in several different counties because New Jersey is really so diverse. And I don't really think that people understand that from town to town, you know, that your demographics change so dramatically sometimes. And it's a really particular population that you have to cater to.
Yeah. You know, I think, but I just want to go back to something you said earlier because I laugh. Which is that
here it comes.
No, it's just funny because I like the phrase that they thought Barnegat was going to be the next Tom's River.
That's what they told me when I got there.
Because sometimes I laugh and I look at Tom's River and I say Tom's River is great, but you know, you have to put everything in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the fact that we feel like we drive to Monmouth County to shop and to and to eat. Oftentimes, and to get culture at times.
Yes.
It's interesting to me.
Well, and Southern Ocean County is really very different than Tom's River, Brick, etc.
Right. Well, and you've seen there's been big growth in like Stafford and some of those other areas.
Mm-hmm.
So we're starting to see that in the southern part of the county.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about some of the, like, if I were to ask you what program you're most proud of in the district, right? Something that over the last 6 years that you've kind of cultivated, that you've kind of brought, like, what would be that thing that you say, this is where I want to kind of hang my hat?
I mean, there are so many things, and hopefully I'll have a chance to touch on a few of them, but I'm an avid reader. I'm a researcher, and about 2 years ago, I was reading an article, I think it was in Forbes magazine, that talked about the growth in jobs and availability for employment down the road, that the 2 highest areas would be in the medical sciences field and in technology. Of course, technology is no surprise to anybody because we're such a technology-rich society at this point. But when I heard about, the health sciences, I thought, it'd be so great if we could have some kind of a partnership with one of our local hospitals or medical affiliates. So I started making phone calls and, there's always a story of how many times you have to fail before you succeed, right? So, of course, the first few phone calls didn't go so well. But eventually I was able to get somebody to listen at Barnabas Health, and they have provided us with a medical science collaborative. We just finished our first year this year at Barnegat High School. And what the medical science collaborative is for a small cohort of students in the 15-16 school year who have an interest in medical science, perhaps pursuing that as they go to college, to go to the hospital, community medical center in Toms River, and to actually work with doctors and nurses in various medical capacities. And it was really, really, really exciting this year. So it's something that I was excited about. I'd have to tell you, one of the great things about it is that with that partnership, Barnabas Health also gave us a full-time prevention specialist for 5 years. A full-time employee for 5 years is huge. Also, free training for INRS and 504, which are really important in schools. So the fact, like I said before, we've got a bond from building schools, 10 years ago or whatever it is. So the reality is that the financial situation that the Barnegat schools are in, as well as many other public schools, is a huge challenge.
Sure.
So to have this kind of support from the hospital is really, really exceptional.
What do you mean by a prevention specialist? Is that someone who, what do you mean by prevention?
Prevention is drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought so.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
No. You can. I mean, seriously. And the reality is that, when you look at the percentages of people who end up addicted, to drugs and alcohol, et cetera, it really becomes, an issue. And we want to help our students, avoid that. The really great thing about the Health Science Collaborative is that our students got to do things like work with surgical instruments and go into perioperative services, central sterilization. They got to intubate dummies. So they really got to do hands-on activities with doctors and nurses, and the students had a fabulous time. and their high school transcripts that are going to colleges really shine because they have this exceptional experience that other kids don't have. So we're really, really grateful for that.
Very cool. So when we come back, I'd like to talk about some other great programs that you guys are doing, but I'd also like to kind of hear your take more so holistically on the kind of the move to the academy type structure in schools, because I think that's kind of the wave of the future. And obviously what the collaborative you're talking about is part of that, but let's talk more about that. Karen Wood, Superintendent at Barnegat. Let me try that again. Karen Wood, Superintendent, Barnegat Township Schools. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin, back after this.
Rush Limbaugh today at noon. More Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin coming up next. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
Hey, welcome back. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. Karen Wood, Superintendent, Barnegat Township. I can't say Superintendent this morning. I don't know what it is. I'm going to work on it in the next break. Superintendent, Barnegat Township Schools. So we were talking a little bit about academies, and I know, with, like you were saying in the break, with one high school and 1,000 kids in the high school, you're not doing, it's hard to, you don't want to kind of cannibalize the school and force kids into an academy structure that they don't have. But in lieu of that, you have some other pretty exciting programs. For example, you have market space coming. So why don't you tell us about that? Makerspace. God, I'm telling you what, if I could read my handwriting, it'd really be good. Makerspace.
We don't have any market space.
Yeah, but marketplace, where the kids can buy different potato chips and whatever. Yes.
Exactly.
Makerspace. Go ahead.
So, the really cool thing about Makerspace or Maker Education is that it kind of returns students to almost a VOTEC application where you're really looking at working with your hands, problem solving, but it's not your traditional home economics, woodworking and that kind of thing. But the really great thing is that the research shows that children love to be problem solvers. If you think about it, even kids at kindergarten, age 5, they love to be problem solvers. I think you mentioned that you coach, right? So there's a strategy in that. So the really cool thing about coaching is that kids have to problem solve, right? They have to work together. They have to collaborate. They have to communicate. They have to have skills for that particular sport. And then they have to learn to apply it in split-second decisions, right? Which is what makes sports so exciting. So the really cool thing about Makerspace or Maker Education is that it gives students the opportunity to be creative, to problem solve, and to do so in a variety of ways. So I've mentioned budget a couple of times. I'm sure we'll get to that at some point, although that's not the primary reason why I'm here, this morning to speak with you. But the great thing about Maker Education is that you can start a Maker program with almost no funding, which is a great opportunity for us. We actually had a teacher this year who did a kindergarten makerspace, and she had the students create their own monsters. And she used things like, toilet paper rolls and paper clips and masking tape. And then they had a maker museum where the students actually showed off their little creatures, and then they wrote stories about them. So for kids that are age 5, it's a huge empowerment opportunity because they're being given the opportunity to really celebrate and kind of show off their creativity. Right. And they say that as we get older, we're not as creative because we've kind of been stifled by, maybe not you, maybe you're still creative.
That's bad news because I haven't been creative yet, so
maybe
this is really
creative.
A problem.
Maybe it's an exception. We'll invite you down and do some Maker Education. How I kind of got into it is that there's a technology conference in New Jersey called TechSpo, and it happens in January. And I was there in January of this year, and I've been there several times. But I was able to speak to a couple of different school personnel. One person is in Toms River schools. Another person is down in Atlantic County. And I've taken teams of teachers to observe the programs in Toms River, as well as down in Northfield, just so that we could see what the application looks like and how to implement it in our classes. So we're not looking at a formal K-12 implementation for the 16-17 school year. What I'm really looking for this year, it's just a different way to teach and giving students the opportunity to be collaborative. It's also giving students the opportunity to have choice. The reality is that we all have choice. We don't like to be told that you have to do things a certain way. And the brain works more successfully in that manner when we have choice. So it's really the direction we're moving in, and it's very exciting. But when you go through some of the really, really, really high-tech makerspace stuff, you're looking at robotics and coding and some of the other really in-depth technology pieces.
So any thoughts of doing like a robotics team or something like that? I know that's kind of like the hot topic now.
Yeah, we actually have robotics in our gifted and talented program in 3rd and 4th grade. We have STEM in the middle school. And the science, technology, engineering, and math program started as kind of an exploratory program where a handful of students did it. Now everybody will have it. Why are you laughing?
Because, you're like a former music, you're like an arts and music person, right? And you still call it STEM instead of STEAM.
Well, and you know what? Look, I mean, I'd call it STEM, but I'd call it science, technology, STEAM. I'd call it science, technology, engineering, art,
and
math, and music. Wouldn't that be great? It would have two M's,
yeah,
right?
and nobody would know. The last M is silent.
That's right.
So it's really okay.
The last M is silent.
So why don't? So come on, you're like the superintendent. It all starts with you, right?
It does.
You can do it.
I will tell you though, we have amazing music programs. We really do. I mean, our arts department is second to none, and we've got students that are just coming back and being recognized.
Nice segue off of me putting you on the spot there.
No problem.
Anyway, all right.
I'm ready.
When we come back, Karen Wood, Superintendent, Barnegat Township Schools, we're going to give you your magic wand, your ability to make an impact, make a change in the world. We're going to talk more about some of the great programs in Barnegat Township and the Barnegat Township school system. And who knows what else awaits us on the other side of the news. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin back after this.
Coming up next, the latest from WOBM News, the Town Square, New Jersey News Network, and Fox News Radio. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Live from Town Square Towers, at the heart of the Jersey Shore. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. Get up, get out, do something. Join the conversation. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Hey, welcome back. 6:34 Tuesday, July 19th, 72 degrees. Get up to 88 today. WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. News Talk Radio. Streaming live on the Radio Pop app and WOBMAM.com. 732-505-1160 to join the conversation. We are joined by Karen Wood, Superintendent of Barnegat Township Schools. I want to remind everybody, this is my 7th month, all right? I'm allowed to mess up some words every now and then. Cut me some slack, for goodness sakes. All right. So we were talking a little in the break about your advanced placement programs, which you're really proud of. So why don't you tell everyone a little about that?
So advanced placement classes are the top classes that any student can take at any high school. So I think that what's happened in Barnegat is that we're seeing a little bit of a changing climate or a shift in our students because we have students that are really trying to get into great colleges and universities. And we've had students achieve that over the last couple of years. So when students take an advanced placement class, you can actually score a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. If you score a 3, a 4, or a 5 on an advanced placement test, it actually gives you a better opportunity to get into a highly accredited college or university. So this year, over 60% of our students who took AP exams scored a 3 or higher. And that's really an increase for us. So we're really proud about that and we're excited. The other thing it does is that when students take AP classes, they're sometimes able to get college credit in high school. So that's a really great opportunity for families, especially when AP credits cost less for families. So when students go to college, they're paying these exorbitant fees, whether it's the students or their parents, right? And they're dealing with tuitions that are just extremely high, I think, for the average American family. So when the students in high school and they're taking an AP class and they're getting college credit for it, they're paying for it, but it's at a much, much, much lesser rate. And that's a huge service for our students. Remember, Barnegat is a little bit different than some other communities. We want to do everything we possibly can to assist our students in helping them get into great colleges.
Sure. The trend really now is moving towards, mostly AP kids and kids who are, of higher aptitude, that there are some schools now that are offering the ability to graduate with an associate's degree when you graduate from high school. Mm-hmm. I know it's a big deal at the vocational schools,
Absolutely.
At, the high-tech highs and the schools like that. Mm-hmm. But you're seeing more and more synergies with community colleges and high schools. So.
And the STARS program is still happening at Ocean County College, which is huge. Our valedictorian who just graduated is going to Ocean County College in the fall. She's a very, very bright young lady. But you know what? She's smart and her family's smart. And they saw the writing on the wall and said, you know what? Do I really really want to come out with $200,000
Right.
worth of debt, $50,000 a year to college. It's really crazy.
Right.
So I certainly applaud Ocean County College and the ability to have, that assistance for our students because they really need it. I
Absolutely.
can't imagine what it's going to be like when my kids go to college. I worry about that all the time.
It'll be
I know,
more.
it'll be more.
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 Or less. I mean, because at OCC, of course, you can, we know when we're doing not doing an OCC thing, but
Right.
you can graduate with a 4-year degree from Kane University for under
Yes.
$30,000. So there you go. And as
There's your plug.
As a college dropout, it's all the same to me. So what's the difference? Okay.
Okay.
You wanted to holler about the sports team, so I'm going to give you a minute. So go ahead, talk to me about Barnegat sports.
Well, you know what? Listen, I mean, the reality is that one of the greatest things about education is educating the whole child, right? Not every kid is an academic. I was a musician, so I wasn't, kind of your run-of-the-mill kid who was, great at language arts or great at math or great at sports. But sports and activities keep students in school. So sports are really, really important. So obviously, I think everybody knows that this year we had Jason Groom, who was selected for the Major League Baseball draft pick, 12th overall, went to the Boston Red Sox. Everybody knows that. That was a huge deal for
just signed
Barnegat.
a contract this week, so there you go. Yep.
Very, very exciting. But we also had great achievements this year. Actually, our middle school had championships this year. Football, wrestling, boys track and field, and boys basketball all won championships. So those are middle school kids. But think about how important that is in keeping them invested in schools, working with coaches.
Yep.
We think that's so important because kids need role models at every single level of their academic career. We had... one of our swimmers, Parker Teleszewski, he was the first Barnegat swimmer ever to qualify for the Tournament of Champions. He finished 8th overall. Paul Wickwire made first team All-State Group 2 track and field. Our field hockey team won the short chapter for sportsmanship award. And we had 2 other really exciting things. Jared Casco won the NJSIA Scholar Athlete Award, and Aaron Connors and Connor Pagalawanian won the Ocean County Sportsmanship Recipients Award.
I can't even say superintendent, and you kind of nailed all those names.
No,
Although
you know what?
I wouldn't know if you said them wrong anyway.
No,
so
you know what? I
matter.
totally messed up Connor. We call him Connor Pags because nobody can say his name correctly.
that's
So
all
when he
right.
hears his name on the radio, he'll be excited that I mentioned him.
Nice job. All right, it's time, Karen. We've dawdled long enough.
Okay.
It's time to give you the magic wand, the pixie dust, the fairy dust, the ability just to wiggle your nose and make a difference, make an impact. Karen Wood, Superintendent at Barnegat Township Schools. What are you going to do?
You know what? I think any superintendent would say the biggest challenge we have if we had a magic wand was to change the funding formula in the state and maybe have our schools funded in a little bit of a different way. As you know, school funding comes from the tax dollar, property taxes, and that's a challenge for all of our local taxpayers. So I often say we have to do more with less. Sometimes we even say we have to do something with nothing because it is a challenge. I know that's really sometimes difficult for taxpayers to understand, but the big challenge is that when you have healthcare, health insurance increases of sometimes 12 to 14% in 1 year, and you've got a cap on your budget no more than 2%, that math just doesn't work. I don't care how you slice it. You've got to make cuts. And every year we do the best we can to trim, and really to be as efficient as possible. So if I had a magic wand, I would manage to provide some more funding for the Barnegat schools because we have great teachers, great administrators, great students, wonderful families, and it'd be really nice to give them the opportunity to have just a little bit more than what we have now.
So I was almost like no, I'm gonna let it go.
Where are you going now?
I was gonna say, you almost went the whole time without talking. That's a standard line about the great teachers, but I know that there are great teachers in Barnegat because, as you mentioned, I have some kids on my soccer team who are Barnegat kids and they love their teachers down in Barnegat.
That's so nice to hear.
It is a great group and they're super happy at Barnegat Middle School. I know that. Or whatever it's called. What's it called?
The Russell O'Brackman Middle School.
Yeah, I know, but
I would
that's
never. Okay,
I don't know
Barnegat Middle
Russell
School. It
O'Brackman.
doesn't matter.
Come on,
I don't know
whatever.
them either. So
we call it like here in Tom's River, we're like south.
That's
or
right.
Like
That's
south, east, and
right.
north or something like that.
Yes.
Karen Wood, Superintendent at Barnegat Township Schools. Karen, thank you so much. If people wanted to learn more about the school system, is there a website? Where could they go?
Yes, they could go to www.barnegatschools.com. We actually have a Facebook page too. It's Barnegat Township School District on Facebook. And we're just really excited about continuing to do more, I hope, wonderful things for our students.
Can we follow you guys on Instagram or Twitter?
I'm on Twitter. Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I have two. It's Wood BTSD and Karen Wood EDU on Twitter.
Oh, look at you. All right. Karen Wood, thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, enjoy the rest of your summer. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin back after this.